Hey everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. It is Thursday, October 22, 2020. We're 6, 7, 8 months or so into this pandemic, the coronavirus crisis. I'm thinking of you, wishing you well. Some of us are working from home. Some of us are in our offices, as is my guest, and you'll hear her talk about that a little bit in just a few minutes. She's talking to us from her office. I just want to say, point out that, hey, this is episode 114. I can't believe how many episodes I've recorded so far since I started this podcast. Seems like it was just yesterday. Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. We're all about marketing and social media and related fields. But yes, hey, we digress. We go off on tangents from time to time. So again, this is Thursday, October 22. You'll be watching this and listening to this probably sometime next week. And my guest today, yes, let me introduce Amanda Baier. Amanda works at Vecna Robotics in Waltham, Massachusetts. She's a marketing communications director there. Amanda, we haven't even met face-to-face until today, and it's not in person, it's virtual. A friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, said, hey, talk to Amanda. And guess what I'm doing today? I'm talking to Amanda. Amanda, tell me about your background and anybody who's watching and listening to us. How are you doing today, first of all?
Doing okay. I actually just got off of doing another hour-and-a-half webinar where I was moderating questions. So it's been kind of a media-heavy day. And right before that, I recorded half an hour with our brand new SVP of sales. So I think there will be a lot of themes in our conversation around multimedia.
Then you are in the zone. You are totally rehearsed and primed and ready for 40, 50, maybe 60 minutes of talk about marketing and social media and who knows what. I said you're in the office. Those who are watching on YouTube or anywhere else watching this video, you obviously are in, it looks like an office to me, and versus my home office, you're in your company's office. Am I correct?
That's right. Yep. So I'm sitting here in our beautiful boardroom. It's overlooking the Waverly Oaks wetlands area right behind me. So if you can see that, it's a beautiful day outside.
It is a beautiful day outside. I just snuck outside before we turned on the show to see what the weather was like. It's beautiful. And maybe before it gets dark today, I'll get out there for a little walk or maybe even a run, something I like to do. Tell us, Amanda, about your background, your journey, your career journey up until this point. That's a real open-ended question. The floor is yours, as they say.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bob, for having me. And it's a real pleasure to talk about my career journey because it's been so meandering. I think, you know, when I was in college, I studied English and Comparative Literature, and I was always a very strong writer, and, you know, I loved storytelling. And we were actually just talking right before we hit record here about our time at UMass. When I was at UMass, everybody would come up to me and say, so you want to be an English teacher? And I always said no, but I had no idea what careers were even possible with a liberal arts degree. So I started my career, it was actually at the height of the recession of, was it 2008? And jumped right into the legal department at Mass General Hospital. And that kind of corporate environment just was a little bit too big for me up there in the Prudential Center. And so I wanted something that was kind of a little bit more, you know, smaller, tighter knit. I grew up with, you know, my brother was an engineer and my dad's an engineer. So I always knew that, you know, I liked the idea of building something, but myself not being technical. I didn't really know how I could bridge that gap. So luckily I applied for a role here at Vecna Robotics, which was then at that time Vecna Technologies. And I got the job as the executive assistant and office manager. And so that's kind of how I landed here. And that was about 10 or 11 years ago now. And so I kind of, you know, cut my teeth there. And our founder and CEO, Daniel Theobald, has been very good to me over the years and has kind of coached me along. And so now I find myself the director of marketing communications. And if you do look at my LinkedIn, there is a bit of a break there where I took what I call a sabbatical to kind of explore another passion in health and wellness. So after that, came back and kind of just picked up right where I left off here at Vecna Robotics.
Excellent. And yes, before I hit record, we talked for a few minutes and noted that we're both UMass Amherst grads, me just about 800 million years before you, back in the day. And my son is there now as a senior. I love UMass Amherst. My stepdaughter went there too. So UMass Amherst is near and dear to my heart. I think it's a fantastic school. Love the campus, love the Amherst area. And I'm so glad we have that in common besides marketing. And the wellness thing is of interest to me too, Amanda. So don't let me not ask about that today. If you want to go down that road, I will steer the conversation, if you don't mind, towards marketing. It is a marketing show. It's my livelihood. I live, breathe, and work and play marketing and social media, especially these days. I want to jump right into it, if you don't mind, and tell me
Absolutely
what you do at Vecna Robotics and how marketing helps the business grow, helps you get the word out about Vecna Robotics. I'm just very interested in what goes on there at the office.
Sure. So it's an interesting time for Vecna Robotics. We received our Series B round of funding at the beginning of the year. And with that, we've been growing the team. Obviously, we've had this, kind of black swan event happen, globally. And that has been interesting for us, both in terms of the trajectory of the company and also of our industry that we serve, right? So we're making automation and AI solutions for warehouse and logistics supply chain automation. It's been an interesting year to watch supply chain go from kind of an industry that many people, consumers, take for granted, to something where all of a sudden, these are our essential workers and they're our superheroes. They're getting us the supplies that we need them. They're getting, medical supplies to hospitals. They're getting groceries to our parents. And so, from the marketing side, it's been really kind of satisfying to serve that market, right? And so I think, for me, my primary question around my role is, how can marketing better serve? So how am I serving my industry? How am I getting the information to the people, who could benefit from these solutions? So that's kind of been, I've kind of taken this question and made it into more of like a bigger picture.
That's okay. So how are you getting the word out? How are you better, if you will, serving your customers, your constituents? Are you doing anything different because of the pandemic? Are you using different channels? Are you using a lot of email, social media? What has changed in the last 6 to 8 months?
Sure. So we're doing multi-channel marketing. We've got our traditional media, right? Our PR. And then we're doing a lot on LinkedIn. So our shutdown happened the day that we came back from our biggest trade show of the year. And, from there, we realized that the impact, we had already felt the impact at that trade show. And that for the rest of the year, we needed to pivot quickly, and we needed to figure out where our listeners would be, where our audience is, and how do we reach them. So LinkedIn kind of became, where we focus the most. And of course, LinkedIn's a great platform, but then how do you use it? So we've been, using LinkedIn ads. We've been dabbling in videos and putting a lot of more kind of authentic type images and posts out there to connect with people on a human level. And then I think from a messaging standpoint, we've also been, asking ourselves, okay, what are the challenges that our customers are facing, and how do we provide them the messaging so they understand our solution can help them right now. So we built some campaigns around messaging like that.
So what exactly does Vecna Robotics provide? I'm guessing it has something to do with robots or robotic something. Can you tell me and anybody who's listening and watching, we're touching upon your marketing. I'd love to hear more about LinkedIn, but what type of messaging to support what it is exactly that you do? Tell us, elevator pitch with regard to Vecna Robotics.
Sure. So we provide automated material handling equipment. So that's like your forklifts, your center riders, tow tractors. So high capacity material handling equipment. And it's automated.
Is it too literal of me to picture a robot? Is it not robots? It's automated, like you say, forklifts, automated, what have you.
Yeah,
so
they're self-driving vehicles essentially.
Oh my God, that's pretty cool to think of. It's not the robot when I go to Stop and Shop that walks around or moves around beeping and supposed to, I guess, clean up if somebody drops something. It's not those kind of robots. It's self-driving. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And so your customers are?
So our customers are warehouses, distribution centers, sortation hubs, and it's across a number of different verticals, from retail to grocery to.
So it could be Stop and Shop back in their warehouse, for instance.
It could be in more of like
hypothetically,
a distribution center. Yeah.
So it's B2B, a B2B audience, correct?
That's right.
Versus B2C. LinkedIn would be the place, I can imagine, to be talking to them. You mentioned video. Tell us about types of video. Describe, if you don't mind, a typical video campaign or post that you might put out there. I do a lot of video. I don't know if it's similar to what you're doing. Are you demonstrating the use of the products? Are you having people talk like yourself in the video, or the CEO? How's that all work?
Yeah, so it kind of started because October is Manufacturing Month. And so the purpose of Manufacturing Month is to educate young people on career opportunities within manufacturing in the United States. And so we were like, it would be really cool to do a series of short video clips of our VP of Manufacturing, just to kind of, get the word out and kind of support our corporate social responsibility endeavors around education. And so we did our first interview, and Brian, who's our VP, he just nailed it. He was awesome. And so we took this hour-long interview and we cut it up into little segments, and we've been issuing it out over the course of the month. And so from there, we had the idea, geez, everybody here is so great at what they do, and they're so animated and excited. How can we bottle that up and put it out there? So we've actually started to make this a thing that, once a month, we're going to sit down with one person and we're going to, interview them for an hour, and then we're going to take it and cut it up and make it into clips.
Amanda, I love that. You and I talked again offline, if you will, before I hit record. I do a ton of videos. I've been preaching to my clients and whoever will listen or watch that video's where it's at. People, it's the next best thing to be in there. It's every brand now, they used to say as a publisher, well, every brand now is in the radio and TV business, if you will, where we're doing podcasts, we're we're broadcasting, we're taking people behind the scenes, and we're discovering, as you have in Brian, it sounds like, people who are great in front of the camera, and they can help you, your brand, get in front of an audience that perhaps is exponentially greater than the audience you were reaching before, because it's video, and because video is credible, video is believable. People then like the person in front of the camera. They start to trust the company. They feel like they know the company, and then they're more likely to do business with the company. So I applaud Brian. I applaud you. I applaud Vecna Robotics for going in that direction. Are you getting good response? Are you getting engagement? Are people clicking through to your website? Have you been able to measure the success, if you will, of any of these ads, videos, campaigns?
Yeah, the ads is actually interesting. So we're using a couple of different channels for the advertisements. LinkedIn is one. We're doing retargeting ads for any folks that hit our site. And then we have a relationship with a material handling industry organization who is running retargeting ads for us as well. And when you look at the data, it's interesting to see how it stacks up. And some of the work that we've done with our partner in the material handling space, those ads have actually done much better, almost 2 times better than anything that we've put out by ourselves. And so that just goes to show, you got to know where your audience is and make sure that you're hitting them, where they're spending their time.
Do you have, if you don't mind me asking, a big team internally? Are you outsourcing some of this, or is it all on your shoulders? How are you getting all this work done?
That's a great question. So I currently have a team of, so myself, 2 other full-time people, and then also 1 intern who is part-time. She was full-time over the summer, and then she's gone to part-time when she went back to school. So we're a small team, and we're shouldering a lot, but we're also having a lot of fun while we're doing it.
That is awesome. And I believe in having fun while you work. I mean, I think if people are happy and having fun, they're going to be more productive and effective on the job. So good for you. It sounds like it's a great corporate culture there at Vecna Robotics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a culture that really encourages you to experiment and take risks. So
I love that.
In that light, it's been also really fun to look at all the tools at our disposal and to pick and choose what we want to do and how we want to do it. And so, we've played a little bit with A/B testing. We've played with some new tools, and specifically this foray into digital ads has been a new thing for all of us, and we're all learning as we do it.
You're in the office. I mentioned it already. It's clear,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, that you're in an office environment. Is the whole company back? How has that worked? What happened? You mentioned shutdown. I'm guessing early March, late February, mid-March. I don't know exactly when you guys made the pivot, but what did the pivot entail? Did everyone go work from home, then gradually come back? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so everybody worked from home except for our own essential workers. So because we are in, we're supplying 3PLs, third-party logistics providers, and medical supply companies with robots, we were essential. So our manufacturing team continued to come in. Obviously, we put in place some new parameters for safety and health and well-being for those who were coming in, but everybody else was encouraged to work from home. As we've gone through the phases of reopening, they have, the leadership team, that is, has allowed us to come back on a limited basis, on a full-time basis. It's really whatever we're most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that all is with the additional precautions of, cleaning your desk daily, wearing a mask when you're in common spaces.
You had a mask on when you first turned on the camera
I
today.
did.
I thought you were going to do the whole interview with that mask on. You had just come from a public place, from
Yes.
where others were.
Yep.
You're taking it seriously.
At
Like
your desk, you can take your mask off, and then if you leave your space, then you're requested to wear a mask.
Of course, of course.
Yep.
Wearing a mask whenever I'm outside and can't social distance. And frankly, I get frustrated when I see people not wearing a mask when they should be. So I was really happy to see you wearing a mask. I think that's how to do it. And the company's doing it right in terms of taking all the necessary precautions. And it sounds like your company of all companies would know what the guidelines are, because as you said, you're actually considered essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos and props. I mean, that means you guys are especially valuable in providing especially valuable services.
Yeah, and that's also been something that has continued to motivate me through this whole time, is just knowing that we are actually having a direct impact on healthcare.
Yeah, well, that, listen, I think I was candid with my audience that we haven't met in person, haven't talked. Is that true until today? And you know what? I say that's the benefit of having a podcast. So again, this is marketing I talk about, and podcasting can be marketing. The benefits of having this podcast, I get to know people, and I get to connect with people and learn so much about them. So I can't encourage anybody who, for personal or professional reasons, who has any tendency, inclination, desire, wish, thoughts of starting a podcast, do it. Because I meet so many fascinating people, such as yourself, Amanda, and I'm learning about a company I actually did not know much about until today. And I hope we have tons of listeners and watchers who say, wow, Vecna Robotics, look what they do. And you're a great brand spokesperson, and you should be proud of everything that you guys are doing there. We talked about LinkedIn. I'm real partial to social media in general. I do a ton of Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Have to ask, are you guys dabbling on other social media channels? If so, which ones? How's it going? What are you doing? That kind of thing.
So yes and no. We use SharpSpring as our marketing automation platform, and we use that to schedule out all of our LinkedIn posts. And because it's easy, we also post concurrently to Twitter and Facebook. We haven't put a lot of effort behind expanding and interacting, I suppose, on those platforms. LinkedIn is really where we do most of our kind of one-on-one communications with folks who are interacting with the brand. And then the next big thing for us will be YouTube. I mean, we're in a robotics, office space with robots in the showroom, robots downstairs being built. It's very highly visual, lots of movement. So it only makes sense that we would start to produce more video, showing what we're up to, showing what the new products are, and kind of really showcasing the features there. Where we are such a new marketing team, we're trying to really know and own LinkedIn before we start to branch into other areas. So that's been also kind of a strategic decision to focus on one channel before we start branching out.
I applaud the strategy. I understand it totally, in that, if that's where your audience is primarily, master that platform, excel there, then branch out gradually. Coincidentally, I have a video in the queue that's going to be all about getting on social media as a human, the personal touch, because I do believe a ton in automation, because it keeps you present on a consistent basis. You can be sending out content without actually being there, if you will. I think the personal touch is where you're going to get a possibly bigger bang for your buck, because you jump in there manually and do some real time. And I'm making this up, but like, hey, Amanda Baier, our marketing communications director, is doing a podcast today. Stay tuned. We'll be sharing the latest episode. Timely, more real-time stuff. Have you ever experimented at all with that? Getting someone, I don't know, participating in a Twitter chat or doing something live, or, in the moment, hey, I'm just going to jump on Twitter and talk about what's going on at the office today.
Who is great at that is our mutual friend, Rebecca Arts.
Yes.
What episode was that you spoke with her?
I set you up for that one. Then.
I know.
Yes, Rebecca is our mutual friend. She recommended I talk to you, and look where we are now on this podcast. So she's great at that. Yes.
So she is great at that. She has brought in her selfie stick and her iPhone tripod and her iPhone gimbal. And so we...
I did not know. I had no idea, really. I just knew she's a mutual friend. I didn't know she was doing that with you. The company.
So we haven't done a whole lot of it, but we have encouraged members of the sales team to do that. So, for example, one of my colleagues, Yvette, who is a sales manager for the food and bev industry, she was giving a webinar, and in advance of the webinar, she did a quick little promo video that her husband filmed of her.
Okay.
In her home. She had a mug of tea, and she said, I just made myself some tea and I wanted to invite you to this thing that's happening in a couple hours. Why don't you come and hang out with me? And just the authenticity and seeing her in that moment.
Love that.
Really made it so much more human. You felt like there was a connection there.
I love that. You said it.
Because Rebecca was the one who recommended it.
Well, kudos to Rebecca. The authenticity, the transparency, the extemporaneousness, the immediacy, the hallmarks of some of the social media activity where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. You keep the lights on, you have that pulse on social media by automating and scheduling, but add that personality, that real time, authentic, genuine voice. Geez, if it's video, even better. That's where you're going to really put the face on the brand, and this is what I always say, face on the brand, a smile on your face. You guys are rocking it. I'm extremely impressed, because it sounds, again, what you just said ties into, or to me, corroborates, to get a great corporate culture, because it sounds like you have the freedom, if you want, to do some of that real-time social media, to experiment, have a little fun, just be yourself. As long as it tied in with the brand and brand voice, et cetera.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, Rebecca and I met at that trade show that I mentioned. That was kind of the last trade show before we all went into shutdown. And at that time, she wasn't working for us, but she came into the trade show booth and she said, hey, can we do a LinkedIn video? And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But she pulled out her selfie stick, and there we were saying, hey, the trade show floor. And that's kind of where our relationship kind of took off.
Well, I think I met her a year and a half ago at an AMA Boston event. I was president for 2 years of AMA Boston. I'm pretty sure that's how we met. And she was on my podcast about a year ago, when we could actually see people in person and have coffee, less than 6 feet away from each other. And she's fantastic. She's amazing. I said on my podcast, we did a video. I don't know if she was a guest on my podcast. I think she was. So I remember doing a video with her that day.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a guest on my podcast.
I listened to it.
Yeah. So of course she was. We also did a video, though. I remember doing a video at that coffee shop, and it sounds like something similar to what you and she did, where we just talked candidly. Let me ask about your own use of social media. So again, I didn't do a ton of homework for today's conversation, and so I'm curious. I don't know. Are you using Twitter? Are you using Instagram? Are you rocking the social media scene, if you will?
So
I've never really put it that way, but are you taking full advantage of what's out there on social media and enjoying it and using it for business or personal reasons?
I am not using it to the extent that I would like to. The biggest step that I took this year was I went out and I got myself a professional headshot.
Okay.
But
I
that
think I'm
was
looking
kind
at
of
it
me
right now on my
saying,
second monitor. I have your LinkedIn page up, your profile. Yes.
uh-huh.
Awesome picture. Awesome
Thank you.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile. And you got a little bit
Um,
of the wellness, I think, incorporated into the background photo. Am I right? Or is
that's
that,
right.
yeah,
Exactly.
which is part of your brand, your personal brand.
Right. And so that was kind of like my saying to myself, okay, I need to own my identity on social media. And so, you know, just getting the picture just felt like a big refresh, and it felt like I could start to participate. And what's interesting is I was just listening to Dory Clark, who gave a presentation for the material handling industry marketing professionals group last week. Dory Clark is fabulous. She's author of several books. But one of the things that she said that struck me was social media gives everyone the ability to control the narrative about themselves.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and I, you know, that kind of put it in a different way for me that I hadn't really previously considered. And then she also said, you know, it's great if you're posting about your company and what your company's doing, but you can't just be the company man, right? You have to be yourself as well.
Yes.
So, you know, one of my personal goals for 2021, because I go through a goal setting for myself every December or so.
Love that. As do I. Yep.
And one of my goals is to define my noise bubble for LinkedIn, and to become more involved, to put my ideas out there more proactively, and to kind of strike a balance between being the company man and also being Amanda Baier. So that's what's next, I think, for me as far as personal brand. I also use Instagram, but it's just pictures of my dog and cat.
That's okay. That's what a lot of people use Instagram for. You're making some good points, Amanda. First of all, I haven't heard the term noise bubble. I love that. Is that your presence on social media? Is that a term?
Yeah, those are like the things that you care about, that you talk about.
Then I have a noise bubble. I probably have a lot of noise bubbles.
Well, it's one way of you know, kind of honing in on. Of course, you know, we are multidimensional people, right? And we're passionate, you know, multi-passionate, to use a
Yes.
Forleo term. So we can be that, but also by defining your noise bubble kind of helps your audience to, I don't want to say, you know, categorize you in a pigeonhole-y kind of way, but to know what you're about.
Yes.
And to know that they can go to you for certain pieces of, you know, certain kinds of insights. You're an expert in certain fields,
Yep.
right? So that's what I go to a noise bubble for.
As I said, and as you talk about it, I haven't used the term necessarily in social media. We do create word or keyword bubbles occasionally when we do analysis on a client before taking them on, or throughout the process. What keywords, what topics are they talking about? Should they be talking about? You know, we turn them into hashtags occasionally. So, so to personalize that, we're talking about us as individuals. We all have a noise bubble. I love that. And you were saying about LinkedIn getting more active next year, or starting whenever. Next year's almost here. I think that's great. You know, noise bubble, I call it personal brand. And I guess within that personal brand, you have that noise bubble, keeping it real. Whoever was it, Dory Clark?
Dory Clark, yep.
Dory Clark, agree with her totally, meaning be yourself. That more than ever is, first of all, I mean, it makes total sense. But it wasn't allowed as much, say, a decade or two ago, certainly in the thick of my career in the 90s and early 2000s. It was so much convention we had to follow. That is why I embraced social media early on. I started my blog in 2004, haven't looked back, because the hallmark of good social media is just being yourself. And now companies are starting to get it and realizing, and part of me is sad that it took them so long and they're only doing it necessarily because it's good for business, but part of me is really happy because now more and more our professional and personal lives are blending, and that is a little more relaxing. One more quick thing, because it just popped into my internal noise bubble. LinkedIn, you said you're going to get more active. I literally was on a Zoom call earlier today, training a client and some of their folks on LinkedIn. And there was a stat I had that only 1%, this was a stat from a third-party source, and I forget the source, 1% of people in general who are on LinkedIn, only 1% post content once a week. And I said to them, you want to be that 1%. You actually want to be the 1% of the 1%. The more content you share, the more you're going to stand out and rise to the top. And it's going to benefit you as a personal brand. And it's going to benefit, in your case, Vecna Robotics, because you're a fantastic reflection of the company and a spokesperson and representative. So kudos to you for having that as one of your goals.
Yeah. I also just guess I've crossed a threshold also in owning my voice in a way. I think that I've always kind of tried to blend into the background and to help the company put its best foot forward. But I think that I've realized that, hey, I'm a contributor to this team as well, and that I'm also, an individual who contributes to that whole persona. So what can I do to also help to advance not only the company, but, empower those around me?
It's a win-win, Amanda.
Yeah.
And not that I was multitasking, but a few minutes ago when we were talking about Rebecca, I had to look up, I have my podcast app on my phone. I don't know if you can see this, but she's here. There's a glare. A few words with Rebecca Lennox on February 24, 2020. Did she appear? Oops. Well, on that show, Bob Cargill's marketing. Whoa. That was my theme song. By the way, you'll be one of the episodes next week. That's what we're recording right now. This is so cool. So cool. How's that for like a meta moment?
I know, that's like Bob Cargill in stereo.
Probably too much of me. Let me segue let me ask you a question about this. I hope I'm not throwing you a curveball. Outside of Vecna Robotics, outside of what you do and personally, but marketing related, any brands, businesses, people that you want to cite as good examples who either do great marketing, or you saw a great ad, or you follow on social media? You mentioned Dory Clark, influencers. Anybody you want to talk about? Any company you want to talk about?
So maybe I'm a predictable millennial here, but Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V is awesome. Gary Vaynerchuk.
He's like my spirit animal. He's so fun. I love him. I think some of the things he talks about just like are so spot on. And again, like if you want to talk about noise bubble, he has very defined noise bubbles that he just over and over and over again.
You follow him, you can't escape him once you start following him.
And he's everywhere. He's
yes, I mean, his bubbles pop up everywhere. I love him too. I don't like that he swears so much. Other than that, I love him.
Yeah.
I don't dare swear like that. In private, maybe, but not in public. But he is awesome. Yeah. Gary Vaynerchuk is awesome. We owe a lot to him for motivating. And it's funny, you say typical millennial. Well, I'm a baby boomer, and I love Gary V. And, he's motivated me and inspired me. Imagine how many people he has inspired to be like their own, and I tell people, don't be Gary Vee, be yourself, but
Right.
use him to inspire you. But go ahead.
Right.
I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought there.
No, that's
Gary
great.
Vee, absolutely though.
I also love Marie Forleo. I think we've already mentioned her.
I don't know if I've
Really?
Marie Florio?
Forleo.
Folio. I don't think I know
Oh,
her.
you've got to look her up.
Okay.
She's awesome. So,
Marie, you owe it to Amanda
do you know
for dropping your name.
it's called Poopery?
Oh, I actually, yeah, without going into further detail, I do know about that. Did she like invent that?
So she founded that company. And
Wow.
she's a young serial entrepreneur, and her whole thing is like, you have to fail. You have to fail and get up and try again and try again and try again. And
Amanda, I'm so jealous, by the way. Like, I have kids, probably, well, my stepchildren are around your age. Not that I know your age, but you're 10 years out of UMass or so, right? UMass Amherst.
a little bit more.
12 years, 13, 14 years out of there. Anyways, my stepchildren are around your age. My kids are younger. But what I'm saying, I'm jealous of younger people in general because the culture has changed. Because in other words, people can be more themselves nowadays, and that's awesome. And in business, it's now supported, if not encouraged. So good for your generation, good for the Gen Z, which is after you as a millennial, right? So kids, my stepkids' age, my kids' age, your age bracket. I applaud all of you because you have ushered in some new changes that, and by the way, I think, I've written a draft of a book, and it goes over some of this because in 35 plus years, it's only the last 10 or 15 years, I have felt the elation that I really do feel about work. And it's because corporate culture has finally changed. And I think it's young people who have changed it. So it was a long way of just saying, we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And people like Gary Vee and Marie Forleo, and others, I mean, even on kind of like a grander scale, you have Tony Robbins and you have Ray Dalio. Yep. All of these people have kind of opened up this arena in which to be vulnerable. Brene Brown, she's another.
Yep, I do know her. Yep.
And I think that younger generations, and even, I look at the new wave of talent coming into our organization, and I'm floored by how mature and how self-possessed these young people are. But again, we're standing on the shoulders of giants here, because without these others in the sphere saying, hey, listen, I've failed, but then I've also succeeded. And if I didn't fail, I wouldn't have learned what I learned.
You have great leadership, I can tell. You're leaders, and you are a leader. And what you said about the people that are coming in that are newer to the industry, literally younger than you, you feel about them the way I feel about you. So know that, meaning I look at people like you and I say, wow, look at, all this knowledge and expertise. And it's the attitude. Again, when I said I'm jealous, trust me, back in the 80s and the 90s, business did not embrace, not even close to half of what we're talking about, meaning vulnerability, transparency, authenticity, being yourselves, work-life balance. It wasn't like that back in the day. So these are great days to be working and marketing. And, personally for me, I thank social media for some of this, because I think it's connected us more. It's allowed us to express ourselves more. And my advice to my clients, I'm always saying, just be yourselves, blend the personal with the professional. That's what endears you to others. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to make them feel better about you, because they know you better. They don't feel they're being sold to by someone. You think you mentioned snake oil earlier. If you didn't, some snake oil person selling snake oil, they get to know you, and they get to know you, and they trust you, and they know we're all in this together. We're just trying to help. We're not trying to sell. We're trying to help you. If you think our products, our services will help you, we're here to, in turn, help show you how to use them, how to improve your business, grow your business. We're all in this together.
Right. Absolutely.
I went off on a tangent, didn't I?
No, but it was a beautiful tangent.
We happen to do that occasionally. I do have a few questions written down. I'm getting towards the end of those questions. So we're approaching when we're going to wind this thing down. You said you didn't have a hard stop, so I may keep you overtime, if you
Okay.
will. What are some of the qualities and characteristics? It's like a SAT question, of some of the best marketers in social media people and business people. What qualities and characteristics do you think? But let's start with marketing, are essential to success.
So I think that you said it yourself at the very beginning of this. You said you live, work, and play marketing. And I think play is a critical piece of it. For marketing, a lot of it is testing your assumptions and seeing what works. Of course, there's always the data piece of it, but usually that comes on the back end. So with all of the tools that we have at our disposal, you have to kind of maintain this suspended curiosity and just say, well, I don't know how to use it today, but maybe it could be useful for us. I don't know, let's try it out. Let's see what works. And I think that doing that with an element of play is what makes this job so fun and exciting to me.
I'm talking to a future CEO.
About that.
Maybe you can start with CMO, but Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Executive Officer, one step after another up the corporate ladder. Amanda, you are, it's so profound and spot on with some of what a lot, if not all, of what you're sharing with me. Couple more questions.
Okay.
Where do you think marketing, social media is heading in the future? What direction are we going in? Any radical predictions? Anything you are thinking? You said you do your goals for the new year. Well, how about some predictions for the new year?
Uh-oh. So I told you at the beginning of this, I just came out of another webinar where we talked about how this year proves that you cannot predict the future.
Yeah.
know
so I predict that nothing can be predicted. I predict the unpredictable. Yeah, this year was terrible, wasn't it? Has been. Maybe it'll get better before we know it, but somehow I don't think so.
Certainly it has presented its challenges to a large subset of our population. And I think unilaterally, I think individuals have suffered from, distance, like actual social distance.
I know.
Creatures. But I do think that this year has presented, within the devastation and the heartache, I think it's also presented its opportunities. And, again, just kind of referencing back to that last webinar I was just on with a couple of analysts, they talked about how for our industry, it forced what they had predicted would happen in 2023 and 2024 to accelerate and to happen in 2020. So 3 to 4 years ahead of where we would have been as an industry. So I think that may be similar here within the marketing world.
A silver lining, it's advanced the pace of technology in a good way, because we've learned that we can't take technology for granted. We got to learn it and leverage it, and it's kind of saved the day these last 6 months. Mm-hmm. We also, I think, have learned to appreciate the opposite, and that's in-person contact and mm-hmm. hugs and interaction and hugs with our family and interaction with our colleagues. My mom's 89, lives alone. I haven't hugged her since February, before the pandemic. I remember the first time my wife and I went over there when the pandemic struck, and we said, Mom, we can't, come in, and, we can't. I think we came in that first time because we delivered groceries, and we said, you got to stay way, way back. And then we stepped outside, and ever since we've only, if we do bring the groceries, although she's getting them now on her own, we say, we'll put you come outside, we'll put them in the kitchen. We've only met her outside in the backyard, and we worry about the winter because it's going to get cold. We think meet in the garage. But where I'm going with this is God, have we learned to appreciate, family and friends, colleagues, and I think when we all get back together, it's going to be one big party celebration.
Yeah.
Back to technology and marketing, but yes, it's increased the speed of adoption of technology. Social media stats are social media usage is up, and I think we're going to stick with post-pandemic, probably some remote working and learning and more Zoom calls, but find the happy medium.
Right.
Maybe we don't have to go into the office like I did most of my career, early and stay late. Maybe, we can mix it up, not have so much traffic on the road, see more of our family. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that there's going to be a leveling out effect. We'll be able to choose where we work from. And, even things like events. We're coming up on a product launch in just 3 weeks, I think. And so, we've had to think about, well, geez, if we can't have people come in from the outside, then how do we bring this product to the rest of the world? And so, using technologies like live, right? Like live. So we're going to be on a live platform, handling Q's and A's as they come in. And that's something brand new for us, and we never would have tried it otherwise.
I love that. And again, a silver lining for me personally, or should I say professionally, it's brought more attention to what I do for a living. Social media is most of what I do. I do some teaching, I do some traditional copywriting, traditional marketing, but a lot of people now are saying, hey, how do I use Twitter? How do I use LinkedIn? How do I go live? How do I do a podcast? And, I love that because I say, yeah, this is kind of what I've been telling you all along. The pandemic kind of proved, hey, we all got to learn this. Like you say, there's going to be some good things that come out of it. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we can put this pandemic behind us. Sometime in 2021 is, I think, realistic thinking, maybe halfway through the year. Anything else totally open-ended I haven't asked that you want to say to anybody who's watching and listening? And I should say everybody who's watching and listening.
Oh boy. No, I think we covered a lot of ground.
That's what we do here on Bob Cargill's marketing show. No, I try to keep to marketing and social media and business, but I do get personal. Occasionally thinking about my mom. Every 2 weeks we visit, and she's worried about what we're going to do for Thanksgiving. Literally, my wife and I are planning to have Thanksgiving in my mom's garage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the only way. She's 89. We can't take chances.
Yeah.
We're not going to go in the house. We wear a mask unless we're 6 feet or more away. But we're going to bring her dinner and sit in her garage. And we suggested, my wife and I sit on the back deck and my mom in the house, and she didn't like that idea. With her having the door open to the deck, she said, no, you're not going to sit outside. But anyways, I digress. I'm thinking about my mom.
I've been thinking about the holidays too. I don't know what we're going to do either.
Everyone's trying to figure that out. It's becoming a big topic. Yeah.
Right. I tried to buy my parents one of those heater lamps, and they were on order for weeks.
I've heard they were in demand.
I was looking in early September, and they were on back order until mid-November.
Wow.
So
it's interesting you tell me that, because I like to sit outside in the good weather and into the evening hours when it's light. And I told my wife I wanted to get one of those that I see at restaurants. I think that's what you're talking about.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because I said, I'm indoors all day on Zoom. I don't commute anywhere. I get out for my runs, but I've said I'd love to sit out there at night and with a little light and a little heat, and maybe through the winter. I don't know. I'm dreaming, but it's going to be tough for all of us. It has been, but we'll get through it. Cross fingers, say our prayers. We'll get through all of this.
Exactly. We'll come out stronger.
Absolutely. Amanda, tell people how, if they wanted to reach out to you either individually or to Vecna Robotics, any URLs, any Twitter handles, etc., that you want to share.
Yeah. Go ahead and find us on LinkedIn or at vecnarobotics.com. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, I'm also on LinkedIn. It's Amanda Baier, Baier, and I will happily look for your messages.
Amanda, you have been a ridiculously awesome guest. I really, really appreciate your time. And I think we're close to or a little bit over an hour. That's a good long conversation. I will be sharing it next week, probably no later than that, sometime next week on YouTube, social media, wherever you listen to podcasts, both audio and video versions. And between you and I, we'll promote the heck out of this show, won't we? So we'll have hundreds, thousands, hey, maybe even millions of listeners and watchers, who knows?
Excellent.
Folks, this has been Bob Cargill along with Amanda Baier, Bob Cargill's marketing show. I thank you very, very much, Amanda, for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Fun. It has been, hasn't it? We'll have to do it again sometime. Maybe you, me, and Rebecca will talk.
That would be fun.
Yeah, all together. Yeah, or we'll, hey, really optimistically thinking we'll have coffee or a drink together in person once this pandemic is behind us. But anyway.
Let's do it.
Yes. Amanda, thank you so much. Anybody who's listening, or should I say everybody who's listening and watching, thanks for tuning in. And I will be back at it with another episode soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.